And a report out earlier this week says that the government and students need to dig deeper to support Ontario's colleges and universities. The province cut tuition fees 10% back in 2019, and they've been frozen ever since. A government-appointed panel that looked at the finances of post-secondary institutions now says years of restraint have taken their toll. It's recommending a 5% hike in tuition fees in September, followed by annual increases of 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is higher. The panel also calls for Queen's Park to increase funding by 10%, followed by annual increases after that. The Minister of Colleges and Universities says the institutions need to review their spending before any increase is even considered. The report says without more funding, universities and colleges will have to rely more on international students. Now, joining us now for more on this is Marina Gurgis, the president of the Toronto Metropolitan Students' Union. Thanks for joining us here live on CP24. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you.
Yeah, likewise. All right. So obviously your school is right downtown and there's residents there, but also a lot of students have to pay rent in the city of Toronto still. It's not like, you know, they're commuting from, I don't know, Sault Ste. Marie. So what's been the struggle been for those who may not have bursaries or any type of scholarships, and they have to go to school, pay tuition, and pay rent at the current prices?
What we are seeing now are the effects of what happens when the government freezes fees without increasing public funding, which has given the university the excuse to increase international fees and out-of-province domestic fees. All of this while cutting funding to academic departments and focusing on private ventures like the failed Cairo campus and private international recruitment agencies like Navitas, who the university has a multi-year agreement with, whose sole purpose is to drive international student enrollment. There are many questions regarding their role and how money is being used at the university by both students and faculty. We are consistently seeing and hearing how international students are being used as cash cows, and we're told that this is being done to make up for the financial gap created by domestic tuition freezes. And yet, with an increase of 5% next year and a minimum of 2% every year after, there is no promise given by the provincial government that international tuition fees will freeze or decrease. I mean, the Eye Opener just reported that international students paid over 200% than their domestic counterparts. Right now, there's a real and immediate need for provincial government funding to increase, a commitment to freeze all tuition fees, and a prioritization to keep public education public and accessible.
And so with the reliance on international students, which universities say that they have to rely on to fund stuff, how does that impact, you know, the, for lack of better terms, domestic student retention, the experience for them? Do you feel that as if their spots are being taken?
I don't know about being taken, but students are already struggling financially. We are seeing them cut costs on basic necessities. I have met with students that tell me that they can only afford to eat once a day. The TMSU Campus Food Bank has seen an exponential increase, and we expect its usage to continue increasing as the demand grows and students begin feeling the impact of tuition fees next year due to the change. We have more and more students stopping by our offices to inquire about financial aid and the resources that TMSU can offer. We see less students attending our pub events than we did last year. I don't think many people realize how many extra costs there are to acquiring an education, especially in Toronto, whether that's textbooks, equipment for labs, or commuting funds. It goes on.
Right, and I'm not sure your age, or if you have any friends who are of, you know, that grade 12 type age, but are you hearing from people saying, you know what, I'd love to go to university, I'd love to go to TMU, but I just can't afford it unless I get financial support, whether it's from the government or with OSAP, or, you know, get a scholarship of some kind. Are you hearing from anybody like that?
Not yet. So because domestic fees have been frozen, a lot of students don't know about this increase yet. It just passed again, and we knew the plans of it from before, but many students are unaware that they will be paying more for tuition next year and even more years after.
Right. And so, you know, we hear the government saying that, you know, before you ask the government to increase funding by 10%, and then after that annual increases. You know, let's take a look at the university's spending and see what they're doing. Do you find that as a student at TMU that you're noticing that, like you said, some of the essentials are lacking a little bit, that the experience isn't what you thought?
Definitely. I think that if I'm paying more for tuition, then I would like to see facilities better taken care of, especially if you see our changing rooms and things that are not, considered varsity. We definitely need more focus to be placed on regular students and their experiences at the school. We need more cost-saving food spots on campus. We are constantly told that because we're downtown, you can just go out and purchase anything, but we are doing absolutely nothing to cut those costs for students.
Right. And as where our station's downtown as well, I can tell you, going out for food, it's $25 to start. So I totally get it. Marina Gerges, president of the Toronto Metropolitan Students Union, thank you very much. We appreciate you giving your time on a Sunday.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.